If you don't know what data turbo extract is and where it is used, in this video I'm going to clear out the concept of data turbo extract. But before getting started, I want you to log into this velocity org. For this purpose, I'll put the link in the description. You can sign up for your own and you can practice along with me. So data turbo extract is specifically used whenever you want to fetch the data from a particular object. So let's say there is an account object and you want to fetch the data from only account object. In that cases, we use data turbo extract. Sounds right? It's very similar to that of SQL. So if you have written a very simple SQL, you can still relate it and you can understand because it's very similar to that of SQL. So let me write a sample SQL right now over here. This I'm writing a select over here and I'll relate this data Raptor turbo extract to this SQL. So as soon as you have logged into your Velocity Studio org, go to the app launcher and search for Omnistudio Data Raptor. So once you have done this, let's click on new and let's name it as get data from account. I'm going to get the data from account using data turbo extract. So in next thing, what you need to do is you need to select the interface type as turbo extract. So there are multiple types of the interfaces. I'm going to select turbo extract because I want to practice data turbo extract. So in a normal SQL, it will just return you the record, but on the other hand, data turbo extract is going to return the data in the form of JSON. So please keep these things in mind. It returns the data in the form of JSON format. Now once you have done this, let's click on new. Now let's relate this data turbo extract to our SQL. So first things first, it's asking me from which object do I want to query. So first things that it is asking me is that from which object do I want to query. Let's say I want to query from account. So I will write from account over here. And similarly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select object as account over here. So basically I wanted to query or I want to query the records from the account object. Next, it's asking me the filter criteria. Okay, what will be the filter criteria? On what basis will you query the records? In that cases, it's very similar to that of the where clause. Let's say we are going to query based on the where ID equals to, let's say I have an account ID and I want to replicate the same thing inside the data raptor. I can do it where filter inside the filter I'm going to select ID equals to the ID that I've just copy pasted. Next, if you scroll down a little bit, it's asking me which fields do you want to query. Okay, like for an example, by default, ID field is queried. So if I go in terms of SQL, ID field is already queried. Let's say I want to query phone as well. I will just drag it to the right so that now phone field is also queried. So select ID comma phone is already queried now within my query. So in very simple terms, if I read this data raptor in terms of SQL, I'm querying it from the account object where ID equals to this, like whatever the ID is, and I am querying ID and phone field out of this whole record. Next, what I need to do is, if I've done everything, I need to store it somewhere. Whatever records I'm going to query, I need to store it somewhere. For that purpose, in SQL or in normal Apex, what we do is we create an record or we create an variable of account, right? So account, let's say ACC. So this variable is responsible to store the values which we have queried. Similarly, we need a variable over here as well to store the values which we have queried. So that's it. That's how you simply write your data raptor turbo extract to query the record. But wait, how do you test it? So let's move on through all these tabs to understand. First, there is an option tab. This option tab helps you to check the field level security while querying the records if you want to. Also, you can store the data within the cache, session cache, or either the org cache, and you can also specify for how much amount of the time do you want this data to be stored within the cache, session cache, or whichever cache it is. Now let's go to preview, and this is where we actually test our query. Right now, I'm not going to do anything as much over here. The reason is because I've hard coded the IRI, right? I've just hard coded the IRI. So if I just click on execute, automatically what this data turbo extract is going to do is it's going to query the account based on this particular record ID. So let's click on execute. Let me click on execute again. Let me add and remove a few more fields. Yeah, okay. It takes a little bit time sometimes to query. But as you can see right now, it's just querying the record, right? Let me add a few more fields. So basically what it's trying to do is, if I click on preview again, it's querying the records, right? It's querying the ID and record type ID. It will query, it sometimes takes a little bit of time, but right now it's querying the records and it's showing it in the form of JSON format. Very important thing is, it's querying the records based on the JSON format. Let me change the ID text. Let's preview. Most probably it should not. Yeah, that's fine. Now if I try it again, it's querying the records, querying whatever I needed. Let me query the name as well. Okay, now it's querying the name as well, right? So it takes a little bit time, but it's querying the record and it's showing in the form of JSON format. But wait, one more important thing is, I have hard coded the ID. What if I don't want to hard code the ID, right? Usually we don't hard code this kind of ID. Instead of that, what we do is we create a variable. Let's say I'm going to create a variable account. Let's say ID, ID ACC ID, and we store the ID inside this, or we store it somewhere else. Like for an example, I store it within the variable, and then we refer this variable over here, right? Usually we do this kind of things when we are trying to use normal SQL, right? So what if we want to do the same thing inside the data raptor? So for that purpose, instead of using this, you can just go and pass ACCID, your variable name. It can be anything. I can even put it Salesforce in 5 minutes. That's totally fine. Now you can refer this variable while previewing. So if you go and click on preview, and if you click over here, add key, new pair and all that stuff, you can pass the value to this parameter. So your parameter was ACCID, and whatever value that you want to pass, let's say I want to pass this particular ID of the account. I can pass it, and if I click on execute, it's still going to work and it's going to return me the records that I wanted to. So as you can see, you can also pass the variable name and all that stuff using the data raptor. But wait, let's say what if I want to write a subquery, right? For an example, sometimes what we do is we want to query the contact, and in that contact we not need to query account dot name, or example, for an example, okay. And we also need to query the ID, and for a particular contact we need to query, okay, where contact ID equals to, let's say, something, okay. So basically, what if I want to write this kind of query? How would I do that inside the data raptor? So first of all, my object will change over here, because I'm right now I'm querying it from contact. So let me change it to contact first of all. Now once that is done, first of all, let me change the variable name as well, because I'm going to store it within the con variable. As you can see over here, I'm going to store it within the con variable, where id equals to, I'm hard coding the id again. Let's get to any contact. Now it's a person account. Again, it's a person account. Let me go to any contact. Let's say there is no contact, okay. Let's say try to do it on we are not going to test it, but we are going to try to write it, okay. Let's say I want to query a particular contact based on a particular id, okay. So let me give this id. Right now it's a wrong id, but it's an account id, person account id. But right now I'm just trying to show you how to write a subquery inside this. So next, you have queried it from contact. Next, you can select the related object. Let's say I want to select the related object as account, contact.account. So automatically all the account fields, like account.name, if I want to query account.name, right? So automatically all these account fields are also visible to me, right? For an example, if I go to, I don't have billing city, for an example, accounts billing city, right? So what this query is now, account.billing city. So basically what you did was, from contact you went to the parent and you're trying to query the parent field based on the record ID that you want to. Basically we are writing a subquery within the query, or We are trying to refer the parent from a query, right? And you can also preview it by just passing the proper ID. I have not passed the proper ID, but you can pass this proper ID and you can test it. So this was all that I had to explain inside the Data Turbo extract. If you found this video helpful, I request you to please like this video and subscribe to my channel.